Alright, let's see. We've got a big box. I don't know what's in here. I just know that I guess it's weird that I'm saying this is part of my first words in my first video of the year, but heavy as fucking shit. I'm seriously not quite sure what's in here. A lot of DVDs, a book. Oh, yeah, whatever that is. Let's sort through these first, because one of these is going to be a receipt, and one of these is going to be another advertisement for that. Oh. Anything else in here? I'm not feeling anything, so... Oh! This, what I have in my hand, is heavier than usual. Which makes me think, yeah, again, either combination of stuff and... Oh, very private lesson. This is some sort of hentai. I was just thinking that this picture right here is quite funny with the picture of the guy in front of him. Okay, and this is Gundam. I wish I could remember what the hell I even ordered. And chances are this is the third of something, and I don't remember 1 and 2 being like this, so... Wait a second. These are hentai as well. Apparently this is a hentai week, but this is DVD and Blu-ray versions of Kitty's Twin Treats Volume 2, Fleshdance and Sizzling Siblings. Fleshdance sounds familiar. Sizzling Siblings does not. Okay, well apparently today's hentai update mostly, I guess. And last but not least, we have whatever the hell is in here, which this one came from Amazon, so I don't really remember. Well, okay, cool. Not hentai. I was holding my breath because I'm like, what did I order from Amazon again? Yeah, we got Saiyuki Reload on Blu-ray. All 25 episodes in standard definition. So this is probably a single disc release. Whoop. We'll just go in here. Ooh, always nice when the thing underneath the cover is different from the slip cover. It looks like a Region A English audio, so this has the dub. You know, pretty straightforward. Oh. Now we're going to take a look at what's in here. What in the world? I mean, this is an import, and that's part of the reason. I think this is like Mobile Suit something Conquadis. You know, now I think about it, it came with a... Oh, but this one just says the address. Yeah, they've lately only been saying the address. Reconguista. Well, I guess I'm still going to open this up. Jesus, this is heavy. And this looks generally familiar, like I've purchased other things like this. Although this exact layout is a very fine print. You know, I wonder if that says it, but that text is so small. I don't know. That's some storyboarding. Jesus. That's mostly a response to just how much Gundam everything is. Let's see, these are books. This is separate. So I can probably put those... I'm going to have to figure out later whether or not I'm going to do that. I just want to get them back in here, like that. And then we'll take a look at this separately. This seems more familiar. Even though I'm completely blanking right now on what in the world I ordered. And hey, this is a solid enough case. I was like, oh Jesus, that lady's not wearing anything, but she's wearing something. It was just less than what's on the cover of the damn hentai. I think that says Reconguistas in G, the movie 3. Side art. Oh. What is this? Ringolon Giamonoya? I don't know. My Spanish started speaking in the double L in Spanish is a Y sort of sound. Like, yeah. Great. Now I'm mixing up what Japanese I don't know with anyways. Picture. Lots of mechas. Reconguista NG, not Reconguista. Well, at least you know, I'm not claiming to be proficient in Japanese or nothing like that. Y'all should understand. Ooh, brain powered. Well, that's a very strange one. Possibly good. I'm not saying it's bad because it's strange, but I am saying that, well, if I remember correctly, they grow their mechas, and it's something closer to an actual cockpit because it's actually in the pelvic area as opposed to in the chest or the head like a lot of other mechas. Alright, so I think I can probably do those, and this box can get tossed aside. And now I can say, here's this week's anime Blu-ray collection update. Alright. I think this is a kind of bad news, good news situation. And it's not really that bad of a news thing, but it's more like, you know, I did a better job of watching anime this past week. But most of that happened because yesterday I was just really angry and frustrated at the world, to the point where I wanted to do nothing, basically. And this meant I was still playing Dead by Daylight. You know, I've got so many projects there that I'm trying to wrap up that it was just a good opportunity for me to play the game without actually trying to play the game. Like, this meant I switched to Killer, and instead of trying to do something where I would be dependent on the survivors behaving well, I was instead in this very... When I say super negative, usually when somebody is playing Dead by Daylight in a way that you would consider to be super negative, you kind of expect them to catch someone, throw them on the hook, and then just keep staring at them and hitting them over and over again. And I just can't do that. So what I do, it's definitely not as mean, but it is also, it could be less fun for the survivors because they end up with a killer that's definitely behaving differently than they expect. But in my case, I was basically playing as Nurse, just teleporting around to generators to kick them. I only really cared about the survivors if they didn't run off and they weren't letting me kick the generators. It was very weird. I think some of them could tell that I wasn't engaging with them. What they made of that, I don't know. But part of the point was I wanted it to be mindless. I didn't want to think about it, socialize. I was just in such a bad, foul mood. And this was before getting into Dead by Daylight. And then the little nuances about Dead by Daylight that can get under your skin didn't help exacerbate that. So my goal here was to do that while watching anime. I know, that's a long introduction to saying, you know, I watched a lot more anime than usual. Friday was a couple of episodes with my Friday friend, Rising of the Shield Hero. Good episodes, good setup to stuff. Nearing the end of Season 1. Unless, I'm pretty sure what's been released here is Season 1. Yeah, Season 1 Part 1, Season 1 Part 2. So, Season 1. You know, one of the episodes I wanted the other friend to watch as well, but we kind of prioritized, it was New Year's Eve, we prioritized eating steak dinner. It was very nice. The last time I ate at that steak restaurant was for the Big Texas Freeze about 10 or 11 months ago. But, you know, that's Raising the Shield Hero. Rent-A-Girlfriend, I've continued pushing at and watching. And I would say that it was a little worth it. It's not like I would say it ended at necessarily the best time. I could see why people would want to see a further season. And I thought the series got better once they shook up the social dynamic by introducing additional characters. I was kind of curious, because I knew, okay, there's going to be more characters. What does it mean when they're introduced? How do they change things? And I guess part of the reason I really liked it is because it shook it up in a way where I felt like it got around this unhealthy dynamic between our main guy and the Rent-A-Girlfriend, right? Like, there's some elements of that are just like, oh, yeah, well, they really like each other, but they can't because of awkward teenager, young adult stuff. You know, and that's whatever it is. And the real problem is more just like, oh, well, their pretense of continuing to associate with each other is just built on these kind of cringy lines, which is the stuff I didn't like going into the series. And it doesn't put its best foot forward in the early episodes, I would say, unless you are really into that kind of stuff. But I don't think that's all the series has to offer. It was, again, much more interesting once it started introducing more characters and more dynamics. And I would elaborate more, but I kind of want anybody that, you know, wants to see it themselves to see it. I'll put this over here. Next up, I threw on Alice in Borderland, which is not a complete series by any... I was kind of curious because it was just 3 episodes. I'm like, oh, I'll watch it, get it over with. And unfortunately, it's not a very complete 3 episodes, but it is, it was entertaining. What to say, and I'm trying to think without saying anything too spoiler and without saying anything that's like too incorrect or off to the side or anything like that, tangential. It's definitely curious. It feels like there's something very artificial going on, but it's hardly the first anime to do that. It's one of those, oh, well, this is an excuse to have people in some sort of death game, psychological game. And where it goes with that would probably induce the most potential payoff, but as it is, it's hard to say for certain because some aspects of it feel convenient and at the same time just not very well defined. I don't know how much more I want to say than that because it's 3 episodes for something that's clearly incomplete, but you know, it was entertaining. And then I started watching Akudama Drive, and I have to say, so far I'm 3 episodes in and I'm liking it. This one has been harder to follow while doing mindless Dead by Daylight stuff on the side. But so I think there's nuances in some communication I've missed, but I've been following at least the general idea. And the general idea is there's these criminals called the Akudama, And our main character is a girl who isn't one of those. Like, the Akudamas, at least the ones we know, seem to be, like, over-the-top bad guys, kind of. Like, you have the crazy doctor that can do super crazy doctor stuff, and the guy that wants to wrestle absolutely everything because he's like, I can solve any problem with muscle. You got the guy that's obsessed with cutting throats. You got the guy that's obsessed with hacking everything. And our main character is a girl who actually doesn't have anything, but she, through a series of coincidences, kind of ends up getting caught in the middle of that, and everybody thinks she's an Akudama. And that seems to be the premise of the show. Like, things aren't so told from only her perspective that you wouldn't say that's all it's about. But that seems to be, like, the thing that's leading the series by the nose. She's definitely the audience insert, where she's unfamiliar with a lot of stuff. And because she asks questions and has to have things explained to her, we, the audience, get to also have those explained. And it's, you know, a good natural thing. And I know I had this feeling during these first 3 episodes where it kind of felt like this over-the-top action movie that's just like, fuck it, we're going totally awesome. And I know it wasn't only that for the first 3 episodes, but there was such a strong presence of that. Maybe just for the first and the second episode. Maybe because the ending of the first episode and the beginning of the second episode had a lot of that stuff in it, or maybe it was later in the second episode. I don't know. I don't have my timings quite right on there, but I just know that it somehow it's just fun the way it's executing all of its stuff in this kind of over-the-top way. It feels like it has its own rules to it, and I mean, the most interesting thing I've noticed so far is talking about Kanto, and of course, you know, any of us who have played a lot of Pokemon hear Kanto and we think, oh, Pokemon. But the Pokemon region was actually inspired by a real-life region, and I don't know if it was a real-life region of the same name, and that's something that confused me because they talk about Kansai, that's where it's taking place, and Kanto is another place. But the way they talk about Kanto, it sounds more like a reference to Japan and the U.S., with Kanto dropping an experimental bomb on Kansai, but then helping Kansai recover from that. And now there's like this huge trade going between Kanto and Kansai, except Kanto's mysterious and nobody actually goes there, apparently. It's really weird. I'm kind of expecting, as the series goes, that it's going to be talking about something, you know, it's going to have some weird commentary where you're supposed to understand that might be it talking about the U.S.-Japan relations in some way, or maybe it's not. You know, that could just be a really good initial setup. I'm definitely curious where that's going to lead. I'm definitely curious what's going to continue happening for our main character. You know, the other Akudama have grown on me pretty quickly. You know, you got this guy who seems to be source of lies. You know, he's always boasting about his long sentences and these things he's heard and whatnot. And it doesn't sound like an endearing thing to talk about him. Like, you're like, what makes that character interesting? But believe me, in the context of what happens in the show, it's actually been very amusing so far. The only thing I would actually look at and say, I'm not so sure about that, is some of the human reaction to stuff. Like, our main character acts in ways that are convenient for what she needs to have happen for the story to continue, I guess. From an emotional perspective. It's not too bad, in my opinion, but other people may feel differently. Like, it doesn't feel like her reactions are, oh yeah, that's totally how somebody that's not used to seeing people die would react when somebody died. Like, but I feel like maybe the show continues to be interesting beyond that simply because it's like, yeah, who fucking cares? We're not here to be smart. We're here to do these fun things, to give you something fun to think about. And that's the impression it left me with. I'm not sure if that's 100% accurate or anything like that, but, you know. So, let's see. Anything else to chat about? Well, nothing that comes to mind. I'm just trying to think if I was going to say today or not, because the clock did just roll over past midnight, and I was going to say, you know, today was the last day of my PTO, back to work in the morning. But technically that's, you know, I mean, that's still true. You know, I'll be going to bed and waking up in the morning and logging back into work and then finding out what I have to catch up on 2 weeks. Hopefully it won't be too bad, because these 2 weeks, most people are out. It pretty much just means that I'm going to be reading up on what happened on the deployment last week. Probably. Catch up on emails. I'm hoping it won't be too bad. But we'll have to see. You those of you who know, when you take vacation time, it's never long enough. There's no such thing as a long enough vacation. And I guess when you retire, maybe the opposite problem can happen, where it can be hard to enjoy your retirement if you're used to working. What do you do if you don't work? I mean, in my case, you know, instead I just find ways to be helpful. You know, I've been playing a lot of Dead by Daylight, so I pass on Dead by Daylight knowledge to anybody that, you know, doesn't happen to know, oh yeah, this is how you get to the secret room in Midwich Elementary School. I say it like it's an actual room you can enter, but usually when people talk about the secret room you can enter, they're talking about that one, which only the killer can enter. And only the nurse can enter it without opening it up to survivors. But yeah, that's an aside. I don't know. I'm at the point where I'm rambling. Y'all have a nice week.